Welcome back to another Gaming Memories video, and here we are actually looking at an all-time classic video game, considered one of the greatest games or pinnacle of its generation when it was released, and that is Doom. And if you've never heard of Doom, then you're definitely missing out, because Doom is one of the original first-person shooters, but it's also one of the original horror games as well. It's not the first FPS game. There was games that came before it, the likes of Wolfenstein 3D, and there was a couple of others, but Doom was the one that perfected the formula, and it actually was the game that actually made this genre extremely popular. This game has a humongous cult following, and it's been recognised and ported to pretty much every console possible that's ever been made, even to mobile devices and even modern consoles as of recent times. And they've even, with new iterations of the Doom franchise being remade in 2016, even to the latest title, Doom Eternal, there's tons of Doom games, and it's left a lasting legacy, and it's definitely considered one of the biggest and best franchises of all time, and you can see why, and quite rightly so. So going back to my first experience with Doom, this was when I originally played Doom. I originally played it first off on the actual PlayStation itself. That was my first playthrough. But I had actually seen it on like the TV, in game magazines, and so forth. And I seen even my mates even play it like in that over the years. And I always knew I wanted to have a go at it, but it wasn't really until it was actually my mate Derek had actually bought it off a guy that was in my class in school, because he was selling a load of games, and he got actually Doom and Wipeout 2097, and I remember actually sitting down and actually playing Doom. Mate Derek actually brought the game over to my house, and we had the PlayStation rented out that weekend, so we had a couple of extra games to play, because the fact is he had bought those two games. We were like, nice one, we have a few more games that we can actually get stuck into. And I have to say, I actually was blown away by Doom. I actually thought it was pretty cool. Now, I know the PC version of the game actually does have a lot more in terms of detail. There's a lot more stuff going on in the environment and so forth, so it was probably scaled back just a little bit on the PlayStation. But then at the same time, the PlayStation has access to other areas, and there's a couple of other hidden levels in the PlayStation version that isn't in the likes of the PC versions and other versions. Each version on different consoles got their own unique kind of extra levels or hidden levels. But this version of Doom here is also quite unique as well, because it also has access to Doom 2 as well as the full Doom 2 campaign, as long as with the original Doom campaign, which would be considered Ultimate Doom. So you had a lot of levels. There's so much here, like for the package that you got back in those days, like the amount of gameplay that was an offer, the amount of levels at your disposal to literally sit and just play through is just insane. So you definitely got your money's worth, that's for sure. But again, when I go back to my original experience, I will remember I played it for a while and I was really enjoying it, but then I actually found, and I noticed, and this actually was the case with a lot of people back in those days, I ended up actually, a lot of people used to suffer with motion sickness playing this game back in those days, and I actually fell into the same kind of trap as well, because there was so much going on, and I had played similar type of games, but I'd never really played anything to this extent before with this type of detail with Doom, because I was so used to playing the likes of Resident Evil, where you had like still backgrounds or images for backgrounds, and the only characters really moving around were the characters on the screen or the enemies. But this here, you had so many different things moving around at the same time, and especially with the environments. I remember even the first day I actually played it, after about an hour or so of playing it, I actually started to get headaches, and I actually felt physically sick. I actually thought I was going to throw up when I was playing it, and I was kind of like, whoa, what's going on? Shouldn't be right. I haven't felt like this playing any other game before. And then my mate Derek actually said to me, oh yeah, this actually game has been known to cause motion sickness with people. And he says, that's more than likely what's wrong with you at the minute. I was like, oh man. So what actually happened was, then for a while, and after that, I actually I couldn't play Doom then for a little while then after that, because every time I played it I just got the same thing happened again. I get severe headaches and just felt just totally sick and just nauseous. So it took about at least roughly about I didn't play Doom again for at least a couple of months after that, if not nearly close to a year. And I remember that Derek still actually had it, so I got a loan of it off him. I said, you know what, I'm going to give this game a go again. I'm going to try and persist with it and see how I get on. And funnily enough, because I exposed myself to so many different types of games on the PlayStation over that time, that when I did go back to play Doom then initially, then it wasn't even half as bad as what it was originally when I first experienced it. I think it was just because everything was new and you weren't used to that type of thing. So once I got into it, then I was flying with the game. Then I just wanted to keep playing it because it's a very, very addictive game. And again, it's very, very, for its time, it was totally unique. It was actually really, really scary, and was one of the first real proper survival horror games as well. It was one of the first ones to actually be genuinely scary as you played it, because it was very, very eerie. It was very, very violent for its time as well. Like, it had a crazy amount of unique weapons and so forth. And my favourite obviously being, I think everybody's favourite gun in the game is the shotgun, without a shadow of a doubt. Just the sound of the shotgun itself is enough to just drive people insane. Everybody loves the shotgun in Doom, and the shotgun has become an absolute staple in every single first person shooter, or if not every shooting game even to this day. There's always a shotgun involved in it somewhere, and it's always the go-to gun pretty much. It's everybody's favourite. Anyone that plays shooting games will always use a shotgun. Because I remember even in later years actually going and playing in Half-Life, and Half-Life on the PC was another absolutely fantastic game. And it reminded me of playing this here because, again, the shotgun was one of the best weapons in Half-Life as well. And again, this was just fantastic. And then when you go on to play Doom 2, I'll show you that now later on in the video, and you get access to a super shotgun or a double barrel shotgun again, which was double the amount of power and was just devastating. So it done way more damage, like, especially like to big groups of enemies. You would just absolutely just slaughter enemies with it. But again, this was genuinely a fun game. It was very tough though. It was definitely a very difficult game, especially if you were playing it on harder difficulties. You would absolutely be just absolutely slaughtered. You'd be destroyed. I remember even recently, over recent months, I actually purchased Doom again because it was re-released for the PS4, and I remember actually trying to play it on the hardest difficulty, was at Nightmare mode, and I couldn't play it at all. It was absolutely insane because enemies would spawn every couple of seconds, and as soon as they would spawn, you were literally dead within 2 seconds. It was absolutely just mental, absolutely insane, to a point actually I just couldn't play it anymore. I was like, no, I can't do this. It just became unplayable because it was that difficult. So for me, in order to actually get far in this game here, I literally had to play it on easier difficulty. It was the only way that I could actually get to grips with the game, because it is a very difficult game. Now there's people out there that are just Doom fanatics that can literally just play it to death and be masters at it, and the way I see it is hats off to them, because it's not an easy thing to do. But on the plus side, Doom is such a huge following that it actually has loads of sequels, like I mentioned, but it's also one of the most heavily modded games in history, like especially on the PC version. Like, there's so many mods and people using the engine that was used to build the game, which was called the build engine, on the PC, and there was so many people creating loads of different crazy mods for it, like building their own levels, building their own, pretty much their own full games, just using this engine, building the levels, creating different characters, and using the whole aesthetics of this game as a foundation to create their own packages and so forth. So that'll tell you how unique this game was. Like, it would have led on to loads of people getting games jobs with it, or development jobs or design jobs within the games industry itself as years went on, because of stuff they actually created in the modern community for this game. That'll tell you how influential this game actually is. This game has had so much influence on the games industry over the years. It's insane. And again, it was released very early on in the early 90s. I think it was released on the PC, I think in 1993, and then it was adapted and ported over to consoles then in 1995. The likes of the PlayStation and also the Sega Saturn got their own versions. Even the Nintendo 64 in 1996 got its own version. It was the Doom 64 in 96 again. It had the same aesthetic, but it looked very, very different compared to these original titles. Even Doom 64 has actually recently been released alongside the new edition of Doom Eternal. It was re-released on the likes of the PlayStation Store and Xbox One there over recent months as well. So it's definitely a good opportunity to play those old classic games because they are heavily available. Pretty much everywhere you look, you'll always find the Doom game in some shape or form. It's pretty much everywhere. It always has been. And the way it is, Doom will always still be there. That'll tell you how much influence it actually has. I'll be honest, I love playing Doom. Actually, I love it. Actually, it is one of my favourite franchises as well. I just think it's fantastic. Like, these old games, there wasn't too much in terms of the story, but it was just simplistic in its idea. But it was just, if you wanted a game where you could just go hell for leather and just cause mayhem and just destroy everything, this was the game to play, pretty much. It really was. And it had enough challenge and difficulty to be able to keep you playing and to also make it that, you know, that it was a worthy challenge for you, that it wasn't too easy, because this game was far beyond easy. And the cool thing about it, because the level designs were so unique as well for its time, that you could literally just open up new areas and try and find hidden secrets and so forth, which was actually really, really cool for its time. It really set the trend for video games in general, and even the likes of first person shooters. A lot of the games that you see today, a lot of their ideas would have come from this game itself. That'll tell you how much influence this game actually has. So it's definitely one to play. If you haven't played Doom, and if you're into video games and you want to play like retro games, you definitely need to check this out. And again, even going back to some of the levels, like the console versions also had a few extra levels that were unique to the console versions that weren't on any other format, and this here was no exception. And there was a couple of hidden levels. One in particular was known as Club Doom. It was essentially designed like a nightclub, so you go in and then you have like a dance floor, and all the enemies would be jumping around the place and just walking around, and then you have the big banging kind of like techno music like you hear like in a typical nightclub environment back in the 90s. So it really set the mood and captured the theme. So it did back in those days. So it pretty much, when you think of it, Doom had everything. It was such an influential title back then, because it was unique. It broke so many boundaries and caused so much controversy. Basically, it had loads of questions around it. But again, everybody loved it and still love it, and anyone that's played games knows about Doom, pretty much. And the way I see it is, if you don't know about Doom, where have you been hiding? That's the one thing I will say. Because anyone that plays video games knows and loves Doom. So if you still haven't experienced Doom, or even if you have and you just want to go back and give it another go, I highly recommend that you do. Because it is such an awesome title and it's so unique, even to this day. Because a lot of games that you've played in recent times, a lot of it really stems from the original ideas of Doom. So you can really see that it has stood the test of time. I know the graphics may be a little bit dated in terms of today, but Doom is just as playable now as it's ever been. So definitely go and check it out if you haven't done so already. So what are your experiences of playing Doom? What platform or format did you actually play it on? Did you play it on the PlayStation? If so, what are your thoughts on the game and how did you find it? Make sure to share it down in the comments below. So if you have liked this video and you've enjoyed it, make sure to leave a like on the video. Also hit that subscribe button and hit the bell icon to be updated of future videos. And as always, until next time, make sure to keep playing those classics and enjoying those games. And as always, keep those gaming memories alive.